Welcome back everybody. So did you know that sometimes even the Michelin star chef have their kind of comfort food recipe? This is the case today with our chef recipe from Georges Blanc, born in Bourg-en-Bresse near the town of Lyon, and this is the region where the famous breast chicken comes from. And of course we're going to do a chicken recipe. I don't have a breast chicken, it is a standard, but the great thing about that recipe, you can use chicken breast and turkey, which is something we never talk about. So what is the recipe? It is a very simple chicken bake, and with the chicken in sauté with onion, with mushroom, an addition of port wine, some sage, some herb, covered in a bechamel sauce, and then cheese on top. So something you can easily make at home. So we're gonna go through the recipe and analyze a little bit what's going on through the mind of the chef behind the recipe. Let's go. Here we are. These are the ingredients we need. Now you would imagine that if Georges Blanc, which is a free Michelin star chef, if he was making this, you have the breast chicken, amazing product from the garden, but this is standard stuff you can find in a supermarket, so a good quality, at least chicken breast, some onion, you got the butter, the flour, the mushroom, fresh sage, thyme, and of course, some port wine. That is red port, we've got the milk, and I've got the cheese in the fridge. What's important in that lesson here is the bechamel sauce. We're going to concentrate on how to make it. I'm going to tell you the two methods, and we're going to see how the chef really used that basic sauce and infuse it with flavor to create a really great type of bake. And this is very important, and this is really actually the key of that recipe. And it's all in the simple details, but it works. And now let's go on the stove. So here we are. We're going to start on high heat or medium to high with the butter and oil. I'm going to wait for this to melt. And we're gonna start by sautéing the pieces of chicken, and I'll tell you why in a sec. It's all melted, and I'm gonna start to put my chicken. Take a large pan, and we're gonna just color the meat. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in here and add some seasoning. Salt and pepper. Now, when you're sautéing different ingredients like this, they take different time to cook. Onions, for instance, takes forever to cook. If I was to put my onions and my chicken and wait for the onions to be cooked with my chicken, by the time the onions are cooked, which is about 15 minutes, my chicken here will be totally overcooked. So the good idea is to color your chicken first and then take it out of the pan, okay? Because these are very small pieces of chicken and they can overcook very quickly. We are going for a light coloring, so you see a bit of color. I'm gonna turn them over, a little bit coloring on the other side, and that's gonna be it. I'm gonna then reserve them, put them out of the pan. As soon as your chicken is done, you're not going to waste any time. Now you're going to try to put all of the meat juices back in there and use that, let's mix it around a bit, for the onions. And onions can take a beating, so you can use a high heat, not a problem, or medium to medium high. And we're going to cook them for at least 10 minutes. And here we are. So this is the result. And as you can see, look at this deliciously looking caramelized onion. And they've absorbed the juices from the meat, from the chicken. You got the chicken on the sides. And this is how we can start to analyze, the thinking process of the chef. They go really to use these ingredients and see how we can infuse each and every one with flavor and create a layering of flavor that stacks up a little bit, and use these layers after that with the bechamel to create something with a bang, something complex, a bit like a wine. So we've got the chicken, we've got the onions, I'm going to take them out, and now we're going to do the mushrooms. And now let's do the third element, the mushroom. I've added a little bit of butter and olive oil. I'm going to use a medium heat, medium high maybe to start with, okay? And we're going to cook the mushroom. So thick slices, all in there, and then we're going to season. Seasoning is going to start with salt and pepper, so always a tiny bit, you don't need to put tons, but we're going to add something extra in there. So for the extra, we're going to have the thyme in there, and some leaves, so you 3 or 4 or 5, this is sage, fresh from the garden, so I'm just going to pluck a few, don't want too much, but sage is nice sometimes, especially with mushrooms. Mix everything again. And we're going to wait for the mushrooms to color. Now, depending on the quality of your mushroom, they should start to render water, but that really depends on the quality. So we're going to wait and see. Otherwise, we can add a little bit extra water, but usually it's not necessary. After 5 minutes, your mushroom should be done, and good news, they rendered some water and they've cooked properly. So what do we have? We have the flavor number 1. Here I'm going in reverse, the mushrooms. We're going to add back in the pan the caramelized onion. So that's what we've made on the side, just to show you what we've made so far. And you see this layering of flavors. And then we've got the chicken here. And we need to add a further element, which is the port. So I'm going to bring my heat to high, not to cook, but to really heat the pan, and we're going to do a deglazing and mix the whole lot. All right, so we're continuing with this layering of flavor, and the chef said, you know, the sage and the thyme with the mushroom, it smells beautiful, but, you know, what about having some port on there? Let it bubble, scrap everything together to make some juice, and then we're going to mingle and make our base. And this is going to be the base of the bake, where you got the mushrooms, you got the port, you got the caramelized onion, and then we'll come after that, the bechamel. We're only going to stir this and then put the heat off. We're not cooking anything, it's just a deglazing. Here is the final result, and you will know that everything is relatively dry. Again, this is a technical aspect that's very important. You're going to mix this with bechamel. If you have some kind of watery soup in there, and you mix it with the bechamel, it is not going to work. You're not going to have that kind of nice bake effect. So minimum amount of juices is crucial. And now let's talk about the bechamel. Bechamel is simple, but you know, when you take it to a new level, when you're in a restaurant, and as you can see with this chef, there's different methods, different ways you can approach the making of a bechamel. There's 2 options. The first option is to make a bechamel, always based on a roux, which is, you know, equal amount of flour and butter. And you're going to be using a flavored milk. You're going to warm up your milk and add in your milk all sorts of flavors. So salt, pepper, nutmeg, onions, shallots, mushrooms, whatever you want, so that you end up with a sauce, a bechamel sauce that already has a taste. And this is going to represent a standalone kind of sauce that you can put on top of a toast or something boring on top of, you know, a vegetable like a cauliflower, something blends, and you're going to have the taste in your sauce. You don't have to worry about anything. Okay, that's the first scenario. The second, you can use a bechamel that is blend to start with no flavor profile. Okay, that means the roux, the milk, salt and pepper. Okay, so your bechamel is going to be blend. It is a blank canvas that you're going to be using to mix with something else, like what we have here. So the intention of the chef is like, I'm using a blend bechamel and I'm going to mix it and stir it into that mixture of caramelized onion, mushroom, port, and that is gonna be flavoring the bechamel, okay? And the good thing is that this method is the quick one that we're gonna use, so bonus. So I'm sure you're quite confused by now, but you will see when you see the thing is quite easy. So we got the pan, we're gonna first melt the butter on a medium heat, and when it's all melted, we're gonna add the flour. The butter is ready, all of the flour. Gonna mix that well, reduce the heat slightly, and we're gonna cook this to a blonde color, which is at least 3 minutes. Okay, there's different colors with the roux. You can have a white roux, a blonde roux, or a brown roux, depending on the sauce. But because it's not a white sauce, the bechamel is white, but the sauce we're gonna have with the port is gonna be colored, we can go with a blonde color. So 3 minutes. As soon as the time is up, your roux is ready, and we can now start to incorporate the milk. The good thing with that method is using a hot roux with a cold milk. So I've got my milk there. I'm going to add some of it, but not too much. And the reason for that is I'm going to try to grasp all this, the roux there on the sides. And to avoid clumps, I'm going to start to work a bit like when you make crepes. You know, start to work that mixture here, okay? And that initial, you know, sequence, it allows you to really kind of get rid of all these clumps and render the whole thing a bit smoother, okay? So we add the milk bit by bit. Just before I'm adding the rest of the milk, you can see with that method, it looks funny at the beginning, but it is pretty smooth, okay? Now we can add everything and we're gonna bring this to a boil. Once the sauce bubbles away like this, you're gonna put your timer on, you're gonna count 2 minutes precisely, and stirring well like this, you're gonna keep on cooking for a final 2 minutes, then turn the heat off. So before you finish this, my advice taste that bechamel is going to be really, really bland. And the reason for that is because now we got all this flavoring. So what we're going to do, you're going to take immediately all of the bechamel and pour it over and then mix everything together. And that is going to create our bake, or let's say the base of the bake. So once you mix everything together, you're going to know that the thing is like really sticky, but there's one final ingredient, of course. What do you think it is? a few tablespoons of cream. This is the last touch, okay? And that's gonna moisten the whole mixture, loosen it a little bit, and it's gonna be perfect for the cooking. So we're gonna fill our dish, put the cheese, and that's it. So we're gonna bake this off. For the baking dish, very simple. You coat it with butter, and then I'm gonna try to scrape that as much as I can in there. Oopla. So finally, we are done. You can see that color has changed. The bechamel with the cream is now that kind of little slightly brownish reddish tinge with all this flavor, and that is gonna pack a punch. So before we put this in the oven, the comfort side of all this, it is to actually put some cheese on top everywhere. I'm all done. The cheese in there, and I have to confess there is one thing I haven't done from the original recipe. The original recipe has 500 grams of carrots added into the dish, and they are steamed carrots, and that would bring a massive carrot taste, and I just thought, nah, I don't want that. I want to try it this way because I think onion, mushrooms, chicken, cheese is gonna work great, but I'll put it in the video description, in the list of ingredients. If you want, you can add the carrots. So now that goes 20 minutes in the preheated oven and see the result. So this is just right out of the oven. I spent an extra 2 or 3 minutes doing the broiler to try to crisp up these cheesy bits, but this is so hot, I have to wait a little bit before we can dig in. All right, we should be good. So the big question everyone must be wondering is this worth it? And to be honest, I'm also curious. So I'm gonna try to break a little bit of this. And it's, you see already, it's quite sticky. So put a bit of that. Bit of mushroom, it's got a good color. You need some rice or something with this. Well, now served like this, you got no way of knowing what the heck you're eating. That's why I've put the kind of gratin on the side. But look, I've got a mushrooms. I think there's a mushroom on here. There's another one here. It's a bit of, we've got the sauce, and there's a bit of sage actually there. Let me try that out. With the onions. The sauce is devilish. I mean, let me put more there. That is screaming for a side of fresh pasta, because this is infused with, I love it, sage, mushroom, onion, chicken, the thing that's in with the hint of port. But rice to pasta is absolutely the thing you need. Now, is this worth it? All the effort? In terms of taste, absolutely. I mean, this is not your ordinary kind of bake. It is really, really a restaurant style of taste. But you're gonna have some hard work to present that thing. Okay, this is my thing. It's a home dish, but you need a nice side of pasta, a dollop of this on top, and try to arrange it. That's the only drawback. And I'm glad I didn't add the carrots, because it's perfect as it is. But that's it, that completes our chef's recipe. I was really glad to try it because of trying to understand this layering of flavor, and I can say that this is not a dish that has been just thrown together like this. There is a thought process that has been put into this. Some time has been spent for people to say, okay, what matches with what, the combination of flavor, and this is why these star chefs are star chefs, because this is what they do. They analyze flavor, they look at ingredients, they see what works, and when they make something, this is the result. Now, if you have a date night or something like this, this is one of the recipes to pull out, because it is gonna impress. Definitely pasta or rice with this and you will have a ball. That's it for this week's recipe. As always, if you have any question, use the comment section, pictures on Instagram, hashtag French Cooking Academy. And as for me, as always, next week I'll meet you for another French recipe. Take care, bye-bye.